Hi, thanks for joining us for our Barry Plant Docklands 2021 Christmas end-of-year address. My name's Martin Ewan and I'm going to be chatting to you along with our whole team here and talk about the season that was 2021. More predictably, we're going to be looking at 2022 and what it means for your very valuable investment. We take it very seriously here at Barry Plant Docklands, 818 Burke Street. We value your custom and really appreciate the faith you have in our expert team as well. So it's going to be a great review. We're going to be meeting some wonderful people, both from property management, of course, and more particularly our director, Daniel Cole, will be addressing us a bit later on as well with our sales manager, Alice Getty. So the boys are on standby here. Welcome to our studio. Let's now find out a bit more about our Director of Property Management, Stephen Heaven, and of course our Leasing Manager, Shane McGarry. Thanks for joining us. There we go, the two big introductions again. Stephen Heaven, of course, Director of Property Management, Shane McGarry, Head Leasing Officer. Not many people don't know about you, Stephen, but just a quick background in the industry.
Yeah, look, Martin, 24 years in real estate, all the time been in property management, been with Barry Plant now for just over 16 years, I think now, so part of the furniture.
Great. This man's too modest to admit it, but multi-award winner in the Barry Plant Group as well for excellence in property management. Shane, everyone knows your voice, maybe your accent, a bit about your background.
Yeah, so originally from Dublin, been in Melbourne now for just over 7 years, working for Barry Plant for about 3.5. Did a bit of real estate back home as well, but that's generally where I've come from.
Great, fantastic. I should point out Shane's a Bulldog supporter, so I haven't been speaking to him for about 6 weeks. I'm a Melbourne supporter. For those who know, AFL in Australia, of course, played off in the grand final, and I won't tell you who won. Let's review the year, Stephen. Most important, 2021, very serious. We were sitting here. A lot of doom and gloom last year, wasn't it? A vaccine hadn't arrived, certainly to Australian shores. Give us a review. What happened?
So it's probably the biggest change we've had in property management for over 20 years because we had a lot of legislation come into effect on the 29th of March. So the Residential Tenancies Act was flipped on its head. So not only were we starting off with a pandemic and lockdowns, we've had to adjust to a new Residential Tenancies Act. So it has been a big year for our team. And first off, I'd like to say how proud I am of our property management team. They've just done an amazing job with all the lockdowns we've gone through and the changes with the Residential Tenancies Act. There's about 300 amendments to the Act, and each amendment had a subsection on top of that. So
it was the most significant change almost in Australian or Victorian history, wasn't it?
100%,
The rule book was almost ripped up and, as Stephen said, 300 changes. What's happened with that? I mean, is it as bad as we think, or has it worked seamlessly for our
Look,
group?
COVID had the Emergency Act in place at the same time. So, and that ended on the 29th of March, and then the new Act came into place that same day. So it was a big change, but the team have got their head around it. We had an ample amount of training beforehand with our independent and head office training with the team. So that led us into Australia to be ahead of the game.
A lot of rental providers are asking me, what is the current status with hardship assistance? That was a big problem almost in 2021. What's the current policy?
Yeah, so the Act finished, the Emergency COVID Act finished on the 29th of March this year. So, but obviously with the latest lockdowns, we still had issues with rent reductions. From tenants losing jobs or not being able to afford the rent or relocating. So,
and VCAT is the judicial system here in Victoria. What's happening at VCAT at the moment?
Look, they're behind. Like from last year, there's over 18,000 plus hearings still to be heard. So, I mean, some of you owners out there are still waiting for outcomes for rental monies and bonds, etc. But we're just in line like everyone else in Victoria. They're not processing them as urgently as what we like, but it's just a matter of being a waiting game on that side of things.
Yep, sure. Some good news, a bright light, realestate.com.au, which is probably the hallmark, the benchmark of getting your property listed. Now 45 days you get for the same money, don't you?
So it was originally 30 days for a premium highlight, which all our properties go on to premium highlight when we first list the property, and now that's extended out to 45 days. So you're highlighted your rental property for 45 days.
That's great. It's good to get a free hit like that from
something from REA, realestate.com. You don't get much like that.
Very good. couple of changes, of course, with the structure, just very briefly within the office. I know Tim's joined us. Do you want to outline Tim's
so
new
with
role?
the new legislation change, there was a new section of compliance. So as owners know, electrical, gas and smoke detectors have to be checked on a smoke detect annual basis, the gas and electricity every 2 years upon a new lease that's signed or a lease renewal. So it has created a big tenfold of workload, but us here at Barry Plant Docklands jumped on the front foot and we employed a maintenance department to help with that workload.
I think that's brilliant. I don't know whether anyone else is doing that to this effect, but we're not relying on third-party outsourcers. We have an in-house operator, and that's Tim Lockhart, which is a great bloke as well, and his team. So it's quick, it's fast, we can get to anything very quickly rather than picking the phone up.
And having
waiting.
it in-house has made a massive difference and a saving to you as owners. So, because there's a lot of third-party companies out there and they're just not trustworthy. So at least we have it in-house, we can trust what we're selling to our owners. So.
Great. I will talk to you, Shane, for the first time in 6 weeks, but Melbourne did win, by the way, if you tuned into that. What's happening on the ground? Shane's our leasing manager. He greets all our potential renters, of course. Very, very important role, and more importantly, follows you up with phone calls and vets people. What's been 21 like for you, Shane?
Oh, well, it's been a very up and down year. I think most of you have imagined we had a lockdown, I think, in February, and then another one in July, and then a big 2-monther for August and September. But like overall, it's been a good year. Like we've rented a lot of properties. We've got our vacancy rate down from this time October last year. We had close to 135 empty properties, where we're now sitting at probably 25. So our vacancy rate has dropped severely, which is great. In terms of people out there, like there's definitely, since the lockdowns have ended in say October, November was a very busy month for us. So in terms of people being out there and shopping around and looking, they are coming. Can't say there's been a huge increase in any rents or any of that kind of side of things as of yet. Possibly when the borders do open to, obviously our international students and our international workers, and we see the corporate section coming back, like that's when we have more of an indication in terms of pricing. But yeah, we're hopeful going into the new year.
We've got a graphic here just from the REIV, the Real Estate Institute of Victoria, which is up to date from October's data as well. You can see on the screen there, inner Melbourne, which is 0 to 4 kilometres out from the CBD, 5.5% is that data, of course, of vacancy. Greater Melbourne sits at 5.5%, but Barry Plant Docklands, hey, we're proud to say we're at 3 or just over 3%.
Just over 3%.
Yeah,
so,
I think it's
yeah. No,
So
Shane's done an amazing job.
Yeah, what do you put it down to? I mean, this is clearly bucking the trend. I mean, we're lower than just about anyone else in town. So how have we done it?
Oh, well, you just have to keep your owners updated, like, and tell them how the market's going, give them honest feedback on their apartment. So whether it needs painting, recarpets, if there's maintenance required, there's no point trying to find tenants when that work is required, because you're going to give yourself an almost impossible job. There is still a lot of empty apartments out there, so if someone walks into yours and they see it's old carpets, they'll walk next door and they'll go for something newer. Yeah. It's obviously, I've had some hard conversations with a lot of our owners, telling them what the current market price is compared to what they would have been getting 2 years ago. But thankfully, nearly all of our owners understand the situation and they appreciate the feedback, and then they've come to the market prices. It's the same always. If you price it right, you'll get it rented. Unfortunately, if we try and hang on to the prices we were getting 2 years ago and 18 months ago, that's when we can start getting into a bit of trouble. So
I think you've answered beautifully there in two salient points, and that is getting your property right. As we say, our advice we think is valuable for you, and that is if it does need paint or carpet, certainly consider that if you're a rental provider here. It's got to be the cheapest fix, doesn't it? I mean, paint delivers about 10 times its return in per
And it's
litre.
a tax depreciation at the end of the day. So not only are you getting fresh paint and new carpet, you can claim that on your tax refund at the end of the tax year.
Yeah, because you're competing against other properties. I mean, and building hopping we spoke about last year. If you don't know what building hopping is, it's someone who may live on level 11. They can save $22 by moving 2 floors up, and guess what? They're doing it, which is probably no good for people.
And you're seeing that at the moment, aren't you, Shane? It's still happening in our marketplace and in a city. So.
Yeah. Touching upon heavy use of IT, Shane, we've got some great programs here, and I say this hand on heart, Barry Plant Docklands, as far as I've seen, the industry leaders in software, and that's really helped again, hasn't it, remote working?
Yeah, 100%. Like everyone now works from home either one day a week, so we've got all that technology, which is great. We were a big supporter of the video tours during the lockdown. Like again, you're in lockdown, you can't do inspections, you can't leave your house. There's not much options really to get properties rented, but we were making our owners aware of the videos. They were working a treat. I think again, we rented somewhere between 40 to 45 properties in the space of a month and a half of 2 months of hard lockdown, where we easily could have turned around and just closed our doors and said, okay, we'll wait till after. But we were very proactive and it worked out very well for us.
So remember that rental providers, the video, of course, you can reuse every time the property becomes vacant. Hey, you might get 5-6 years out of it. So speak to your property manager, very low cost, and it just helps guide the right people through rather than relying on 6 photos perhaps. So that's another
And
handy.
again, Martin, tax deduction.
Tax deductible. Boy, this is all good news. Time on market at the moment, guys. Average. I know it's hard because everything's different. How many days on market are we sort of looking at?
Again, like if you price the property right, if you listen to us, like we do know what we're talking about when we're talking about the prices in Docklands and the CBD. If you do price it right and you keep your apartment up to date, like we're not seeing those 6-8 week vacancy rates anymore. We're getting them done in the first couple of weeks. Again, I'll be updating you after a week or two if we did miss the mark by $10 or $20. So if you keep the price right, you keep your apartment updated, vacancy rates definitely with lower than a month. Again, if you are trying to hold off and get those bigger prices, then you're leading into a longer period.
And the first week, as Shane was just indicating, is the most important week to get it right. If you don't get that right, you slowly will drop off that top of the search engine on realestate.com. So you've got to get that first week right, and that's what we pride ourselves on, getting it right first time round to minimise your vacancy period.
Yeah, a bit like sales as well. All the actions in the first week. Same with rental market as well. Just a quick one. We've got a lot to get through, but prediction 2022. Both of you, Shane. Perhaps you can kick us off.
Yeah, like I'm confident. Like obviously, we never know what's going to be thrown at us over in Melbourne here, so we're well used to getting thrown lockdowns all of a sudden. But I think the market, it should pick up. Like it's not going to be anything crazy. It's not going to go straight back to where it was 2 years ago. But like we're hopeful that when international students arrive, that corporate, that's something we really depend on, is the corporate section. So that fills our like 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartments, gets our high rent. So if that does come back, I feel we'll be in a good position going into the new year or mid-new year.
And Stephen, international students, I think it's the second biggest GDP generator for the state of Victoria. I mean, I've heard there's good news there.
Yeah, so inner city market. So if we can get our students, get those borders open, so then we can get the corporate sectors back. As Shane said, interstate and overseas is heavily involved with our marketplace, so we need that open and get that going. Also at the same time, you know, for us as a property management team, to take it to the next level as well, to provide you owners with our best possible service and our tenants alike, because tenants, if we don't have them, you don't have rent coming through.
Sure. Love these guys. They're the most passionate I've seen in property management. Hope you're enjoying the experience as well. The guys are going to join us to say goodbye at the end of the address today. But another question you guys might be getting at the moment is, should I sell my investment? Well, we're going to find out right now from our director, Daniel Cole, and sales manager, of course, Alice Geddes. There we go, our sales team here for the 2021 report. Daniel, a bit of background about the business for perhaps our clients who have just joined us. How long have you been running the business?
Yeah, well, we started in approximately 2001, so what's that, 20-year anniversary of real estate in Melbourne.
And I think the longest serving agency, of course, in Docklands as well, which is great. So
that's right, yeah.
All coming out of the ground. Alice Geddes, lovely to see you, of course.
Hi, how are we?
Good. The market this year, an overview, Dan, and perhaps Alice as well. What have we seen?
Okay, it's very similar to the year before. So the 2 years of lockdown, we've had fairly consistent results, okay? Yeah. So I know the suburbs are going off, but inner city real estate is a lot slower than the suburbs. And probably the obvious conclusion to that is we don't have a lot of rental yield, of course, for our investors. They're the ones perhaps rather than owner-occupiers. Correct. As you discussed with the rental crew, yields have shrunk.
Sure.
So the investors are out of the market really, and we're principally selling to owner-occupiers. So the larger apartments, not a problem. They're selling very well. The smaller one-bedrooms have been held up a bit.
Yeah, Alice, profile of the buyers. I mean, you've across this year, you've had some wonderful sales, huge volume. Who are the profile? Who's buying?
So primarily first home buyer, owner occupiers are the key buyers buying in our market. I'm finding that they're targeting sort of the top end stock now, 2 beds, larger 2 beds going on to 3 beds. Typically we had a lot of people, trying to buy around the 1 bedroom mark, but because of the supply or volume of stock on the market, it seems with the adjustment in the COVID situation with their jobs, working from home, working part-time from home, people are looking for more space. So the market sort of shifted in a different direction with that. The top end market downsizes, a lot of people selling up in the suburbs, cashing in on their properties because they're making so much money out in the suburbs, and then coming in from a lifestyle standpoint, looking at 3 bedrooms.
In fact, to prove that, you had 6 sales recently in excess of
1.2.
Well, and that was all in what, 2 weeks?
About 2.5 weeks, when we got out of the lockdown period. So people were, really dying to get out and get at looking at properties again. And we obviously accumulated quite a bit over the lockdown period in terms of stock, and the 3 bedroom market especially was the one that really hit the gate running.
And a real highlight of that data was 2302S at 889 Collins. Tell us about that.
Put it on the market and sold within a week, which is almost record for the 3 bedroom apartment market. Pre-COVID, I think that initially the 3 bedroom or top end market was a lot slower. There's a smaller pool of buyers, but now because of the change in situation with COVID and people upgrading, people love the apartment living and the lifestyle, they're looking to move into 3 bedroom market. So that market essentially is transacting really well and getting really good prices as well.
Okay, for people watching perhaps with a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, Dan, what's happening in that space at the moment? Are we seeing a return, or are they still languishing on the market?
Look, once upon a time, we were getting rents for the 1 bedrooms around the 460 a week. Now they have dropped down to just above the 300 a week. So that's made as I was saying before, with the returns, has reduced the returns. So they haven't been as popular with the investors.
Although in recent weeks, have we not seen a bit of a resurgence to the 1 bedroom market? I mean, I think they're becoming such good value at the moment. I mean, obviously, water finds its own level. It has to scream great value. I mean, here behind us, the greatest city in the world, and you can buy these properties in here for little money. Are you going to see in 2021 a return?
Well, it's happened already. Funny enough, in the last 2 weeks, we have sold about 5 or 7 of the 1 bedrooms.
That's good news, isn't
so,
it?
Yeah.
Great news if you've got a 1 bedroom apartment. What are your thoughts about selling? I mean, obviously we're addressing our rental providers here today. Some people may be considering selling. Well, what are your thoughts for 2022?
Oh, well, look, typically January, February, March, our busiest months for apartment sales every year. We find a lot of movement in the market. Borders are opening back up now. A lot of people naturally have a fresh start or a sea change in the new year. They move into state for new jobs. I think because of what's happened, people are reevaluating their situations now. So hopefully we're going to see a lot more people come in the new year. But equally, I think people may be holding off on their apartments just to sort of see what's happened maybe with the uncertainty. So we should see probably more stock come onto the market too.
I just noticed interest rates still saying official cash rate at 0.1%, which is great news as well. There was some talk of maybe a rise, but it seems to have plateaued there, so that's good news. Auction or private sale, the age-old question. A lot of people ask, gee, they're nervous about an auction. What are your thoughts on that, Dan? Auction or private
We
sale?
love auctions.
Look, we are an auction company. We do believe in auctions for many reasons. And private sales, if people want to go private sales, not a problem either.
Yeah. Tell us about what happened last weekend. Eugene Louis, one of our sales staff, as a freshwater place. Step us through what happened there, Dan.
Look, it was a mortgagees auction that just took off. We had 3 or 4 bidders, just crazy to get the property. 2 bedroom apartment in Southbank,
And it went well above reserve.
Well above reserve,
Yeah. So there you go. That's looking good. What are the costs, Alice, associated? A lot of people may not have sold for a while. Just a broad brush. I mean, what's involved in costs in selling a property today? Marketing, obviously, it depends on what you want.
I think it will vary from property to property and what you've got, 1 bedroom versus 3 bedroom. But what I can recommend is obviously marketing is an investment, especially in a market that is saturated with apartments. So I think it's extremely important to market your property correctly. That comes down to presentation too. We are finding that properties that are presented well are having shorter days on market and getting better sale prices.
Yeah, I think it's particularly relevant in apartments. I mean, we've all worked both in the residential, suburban market, but boy, I can only echo Alice's words. It is so important to consider staged furniture. Get some painting done. It's not expensive. It needs carpet because you don't get a second chance to make a first impression.
That's exactly right.
As soon as that door opens, and I've done it myself with my own property. I know, it hurts. You think, gee, do I really want to spend the money? But it just always pays dividends, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And I think when the buyers have so much choice, it is really important to make that first impression, like you say. And I think with the size and shape of apartments, there's a really fine balance with presenting the property in such a way that it feels spacious and can feel like a home. And I think it's about making that emotional connection with buyers in our market because we are dealing with owner-occupiers.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're after something ready to move in, aren't they? They don't want a headache with expense. So it's great news, guys. As I say, consider, photography, videos, staged furniture. Get it right. Your sales team are here to help you.
I think also another issue is, I know it hurts the owners. A lot of our landlords out here is probably to vacate the tenant, okay? Very rarely do we have a tenant with brilliant furniture and it shows off to the apartment's best view, but to remove a tenant, you don't have to pay compensation for the tenant because now that the new laws, there's compensation legislated that we have to give tenant if we show people through. Also gives us a lot easier access. We can present the property and stage the property, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah. No, it's looking good for 2022, isn't it? I mean, I think with the return of students, particularly to prop up that one-bedroom market, executive leases for the higher end. So, as we sit here today, just before Christmas 2021, it's looking like borders are going to reopen. I mean, this time last year, there wasn't even a vaccine available in Australia. So there's some certainly blue skies we mentioned with the rental team before. So, thanks, guys. Two of the best, of course, the whole team in the sales area here to help you. So important to get a market appraisal, isn't it, guys? I mean, it doesn't cost anything to get Alice in your property tomorrow night, or Eugene, any of the team members, to just get a current market appraisal. We can give you great data, can't we? We can give you up-to-date, up-to-the-minute data.
And just the best possible advice if you are considering selling.
Yeah, and don't forget, it does take longer than you think. By the time you decide, it can often take 4 or 5 weeks to get your property ready. So don't think, hey, we're going to sell. If you are thinking of selling, remember it takes about 4 or 5 weeks before we even start launching it, particularly if you need a bit of work. But great year, guys. Thank you. It's been brilliant. And our sales department, Dan Cole, of course, along with others, and Alice Geddes joining us here for our 2021 Christmas address. So thanks for joining us. I hope you got some real value out of today's presentation. We pioneered this last year, but it's been a hell of a year, hasn't it, guys? It's been tough for all, hasn't it?
Definitely.
It's really awkward. But hopefully you've got a sense of flavour that 2022 is on the increase as well. Borders are likely to open in Victoria. It's going to bring students, executive rents back, and of course, hopefully increased yield means increased price for sale. So across the board, a lot of blue skies ahead. We're open right across the Christmas break for our rental providers. You'll be paid out as usual, no change there. But on behalf of our team, if you are going away on holidays, stay safe for this festive season. And thanks for your trust in our company. We take it very seriously indeed. But enjoy 2022 and the break coming up.
Merry
Thanks for
Christmas
joining us.
to everybody.
Merry Christmas all.